If you were a diner in America in the 1990s or 2000s, there was one undisputed king of casual dining steak: Outback Steakhouse. For decades, it was the nation's #1 steakhouse, outselling all its rivals. The brand was so strong that in the early 2000s, Warren Buffett himself became a significant investor, buying 1.9 million shares. But today, that king is in serious trouble. In February 2024, its parent company, Bloomin Brands, announced it was axing 41 underperforming restaurants, most of them Outbacks. Then, in October 2025, they abruptly closed another 21 locations. On top of that, they announced another 22 restaurants will shut down as their leases expire. The company's footprint has shrunk by about 10% in the last decade, and its stock has plunged. Outback has been overtaken by its rivals, Texas Roadhouse and Longhorn Steakhouse. It is no longer #1, or even #2. It's #3. So, what happened? How did the restaurant that defined the casual steak dinner for a generation, the home of the Bloomin Onion, fall so far from grace? This is the decline of Outback Steakhouse. To understand the fall, you have to understand the brilliant and slightly bizarre idea behind its rise. The first Outback Steakhouse opened in Tampa, Florida in 1988. It was founded by 3 men who all had experience in the restaurant industry. They saw an opening in the market, but their theme didn't come from a business school. It came from Hollywood. In 1986, the movie Crocodile Dundee was a global phenomenon. It was the second highest grossing movie of the year and sparked a massive wave of Australia mania in America. The founders wanted to capitalize on this rugged, fun-loving, down-under vibe. Here's the most amazing part. The founders had reportedly never even been to Australia. They were afraid that visiting the real Australia would influence their menu and ruin the American perception of it. The goal was never to be an authentic Australian restaurant. The concept, in their words, was American food and Australian fun. And it worked perfectly. The menu items had Aussie names, the decor was rustic, and the signature appetizer, the Bloomin Onion, became a cultural icon. The brand rode the wave of 90s pop culture, alongside other Australian hits like The Crocodile Hunter and The Wiggles. By the year 2000, there were over 500 Outbacks across the United States. It was the go-to spot for an affordable steak, a birthday dinner, or a night out. But as the brand entered the 21st century, the very things that made it a success began to work against it. The first problem is that themes have a shelf life. The Crocodile Dundee-inspired vibe felt exciting in 1990. In 2025, it feels dated. As one analysis noted, themed restaurants that boomed in the 90s, like Rainforest Cafe or Planet Hollywood, have also seen major declines. While competitors built brands around a timeless Western or Texas theme, Outback was stuck with an Australian gimmick that lost its pop culture relevance. The dark, rustic decor that once felt cozy now just felt old. A remodeling campaign in 2008 tried to modernize the look, but for many fans, it just stripped the chain of its identity. As Outback's theme was aging, its competition was getting smarter, faster, and cheaper. For years, Outback's main rivals, Texas Roadhouse and Longhorn Steakhouse, were just dots in its rearview mirror. Then, they blew past it. In the third quarter of 2025, while Outback celebrated its first positive sales growth in 2 years, a tiny 0.4%, Longhorn and Texas Roadhouse reported growth of 5.5% and 5.8% respectively. How did they do it? They won on value. As inflation squeezed American wallets, diners started looking closer at the check, and the difference was stark. The average check per person at Outback climbed to around $29. At Texas Roadhouse, a full steak dinner runs about $23. And that $23 at Texas Roadhouse also gets you a basket of their famous fresh-baked rolls with cinnamon butter and a bucket of peanuts at the... Meanwhile, Outback was seen as offering less value and a less vibrant experience. Customers began to feel that the food quality just wasn't worth the price. One former employee, writing on social media, claimed the company had been cutting costs for decades, steadily switching everything to pre-made frozen sauces, microwavable sides, and frozen steaks since at least 2007. While Outback relied on complicated, short-term promotions to get people in the door, its rivals focused on consistent everyday value, and it won them the war. The problems inside the restaurants were made worse by decisions from the corporate office. In 2012, Outback became the flagship brand of a new publicly traded company, Bloomin Brands. This parent company also owns Carrabba's Italian Grill, Bonefish Grill, and the high-end Fleming's Prime Steakhouse. Outback is the company's core, accounting for more than half of its entire business. But for years, critics argued that the company was distracted. Instead of investing to keep the core brand, Outback, fresh and competitive, it was splitting its attention and capital among its other smaller restaurant chains. This lack of focus meant that while Texas Roadhouse was perfecting its operations, many Outback locations were left to age, with dated interiors and inefficient kitchens. The original founders had built Outback on a few key efficient principles. One of the most famous was that Outback was closed for lunch. This was a brilliant move. It meant they didn't need to rent expensive locations near office parks. They could open in lower rent areas. It also meant employees weren't overworked, which improved service. But as the company grew and the founders' influence declined, this core principle was abandoned. In 2015, Outbacks nationwide started opening for lunch. This was likely a defensive move to compete, but it complicated operations and stretched staff thin, all while trying to serve a lunch crowd in locations that were never designed to attract one. Service standards slipped. The original server-to-table ratio of 1 server for every 3 tables crept up to 1 server for every 6 tables. The menu became bloated and complex. The chain had lost the operational efficiency that made it great. On top of all these strategic problems, the brand has been hit by a series of isolated, damaging controversies that hurt its reputation. There wasn't one massive scandal, but rather a long, slow drumbeat of negative press. In 2009, the company was hit with a $19 million settlement after the U.S. Equal Employment Opportunity Commission filed a lawsuit, alleging female workers were denied favorable jobs and promotions. In 2016, another class action lawsuit resulted in a $3 million settlement. This one alleged that employees were forced to work extra hours off the clock, a practice the company apparently called Outback time. Then there were the just weird stories. In 2017, a bizarre conspiracy theory went viral, claiming the layouts of Outback restaurants in several cities formed a satanic pentagram. It was baseless, but it was another negative headline. Add in separate incidents of accidentally serving alcohol to children and an officer being asked to leave for carrying his weapon, and you have a brand that just can't seem to stay out of the bad news. Which brings us back to today. Bloomin Brands has seen its market value collapse from $2.5 billion in March 2024 to around $600 million. The company has suspended its dividend to save cash and is now in full-blown crisis mode. The new CEO, Mike Spanos, who was hired in 2024, has been blunt. In one call, he said, "We are not pleased with our performance, and we had drifted away from making decisions centered on the guest experience." Now, he's launching a massive $75 million multi-year turnaround plan to save the brand. First, they are simplifying everything. They're cutting 20% of the menu to speed up kitchens and improve quality. Second, they are investing in service and quality. They are reducing the number of tables per server, moving back toward that original, successful model. They're also spending $25 million of that $75 million investment just on improving food quality, especially the steaks. Third, they are renovating the restaurants. The plan is to remodel all remaining locations by 2028, making them brighter, with new bars and expanded areas for the booming pickup and delivery business. And finally, they're changing how they talk to you. They are slashing their ad budget for traditional TV commercials and pouring that money into digital marketing to try and attract new, younger customers. The CEO has said, "Outback is a great business. It's a great brand. It is a very fixable business. But the question is it too late?" Outback Steakhouse isn't just a restaurant. For many people, it's a memory. But in a world with cheaper, livelier, and higher quality options, a new coat of paint and a new menu might not be enough to bring the king back. So I want to know what you think. Do you have a favorite memory of Outback? And based on this plan, do you think it's fixable, or have you already moved on to Texas Roadhouse? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching.